Welcome back, guys, to another Dragon Ball Legends video. Today we are going to be talking about the newly released Ultra Full Power Frieza and giving you guys all the things you need to know in regards to his best equipment and best teams, so you guys can go and use him at his absolute pinnacle and judge him for the absolute top one unit that he is. With that being said, let's get into it. Alright guys, let's dive into Full Power Frieza's equip options. We're going to go over his core options that are going to be on him no matter what team you're running him on. And there's going to be two of those that we're going to go over, so we're going to pull up both of those here. The first one is this Duel on a Vanishing Planet Frieza Saga equip. This is going to be giving him 15% to both defenses, HP, and 30% blast attack. Just an overall generally amazing stat equip that you want to have on him before you start slapping like pures and other things on him. So this is an absolutely amazing equip. You do want to always have this on your Frieza. The second equip is going to be the new Co-op equip, which is absolutely bonkers. It gives him 12% HP, 15% to both defenses, and 15% to pure blast attack, which is his primary offense, as well as 15% to strike attack if you're running him alongside a Frieza Saga Saiyan battle member, which if you're running him on Frieza Saga, you will go ahead and get that active. So those are the two equips that no matter what team you're running Frieza on, you should always have those equips on him. Now, the third equipment was one that actually dropped really recently, and if you are able to take advantage of it, is very OP, and that is this Frieza Force ranged equip that has a 16% blast attack, another 20% blast attack right there with 10% pure if a battle member other than this character is tagged Frieza Force. So this is something primarily if you're running LOE is where you could take advantage of this. And it's also going to be giving him an additional 12% HP and 12% special move on top of that. This equip is absolutely bonkers, especially if you're Zenkai buffing him. Running this with these two, this guy is going to be a monster, a force to be reckoned with, man. So make sure you guys have these set up, especially, and I cannot stress this enough, if you're running on my LOE, which I think will be his best team in terms of his individual performance, then you guys need to have these three equips. There is no other option. Like that is the optimal. You gotta run that. It is absolutely insane. Now, keeping that in mind, if you are lacking a bit of stats and you're not able to get enough blast attack to maybe run that double pure kind of setup for your Frieza, the new PvP equip is a really good option to run on him as well. It gives him a lot of extra bulk, giving him 20% strike defense, 12% health, an additional 12% blast defense, and 12% to both of his defenses. These two new units have so much sustain and so much durability that giving them these defensive equips, because genuinely speaking, they're not going to have issue doing damage. They have so many offensive tools and things in their kit. They're going to be tearing through teams anyways. Giving them this extra defensive sustainability is going to make people want to tear their hairs out when they're fighting you. So I highly recommend that if you're not running him on something like LOE, and maybe if you're running him even on Frieza Saga, you go ahead and run the new PvP equip in conjunction with both of these core equips that we talked about earlier. That is essentially all you really need to know about running this Frieza. He has a couple other pure options, but you generally don't need to know them. But in case you are running him on a team where you cannot take advantage of this Frieza Force, you can run the Shenron equip with blast attack rolls. That will go ahead and give you an option for that, and that will allow you to do damage with that as well. If you just want a generally good defensive equip, you can also run this Awakened Ha equip. This will just give you a lot of HP, health restore, and double defense, but no pures, which is like the main thing that will really skyrocket your defense. And then other than that, you really don't have much options when it comes to this guy's pures, which is a good reason why they gave this guy the equips that they did give him. And I'm glad that they did, because he doesn't really have that many options, especially in the pure department. The only other options he really has is running these equips that are character specific. This one requires you to run an Android 17, which currently there's no viable ones. If you're running him on a full PO team, which you can on an LOE kind of setup, you could run this Uncontrollable Anger equip, and that can also be decent, but I would still recommend the other options that we went over. If you're running him alongside the new Saiyan Saga Vegeta, this is an absolutely bonkers equip that you should definitely slap on him in slot 3, giving him a lot of bulk, damage, and sustain. That is something definitely to keep in mind. And then there's other equips here that are similar to that, but those are really the only ones that matter. This is also this one if you're running him alongside the Android Cell that came out, the Ultra Cell. This can be another one that is decent, giving him a little bit of both offenses there. But that essentially covers all the equips that you could potentially run on Frieza on his various teams. Now we are going to go ahead and go into the team building section for Frieza, so make sure you guys stay tuned to know what the best teams are for this absolute monster. Alright guys, let's go ahead and take a look at Ultra Full Power Frieza's teams here, see what we can cook up, and show you guys what the best, most optimal way is to run this absolute demonic beast of a unit. Starting off, we're going to immediately talk about his best team and his best setup. that is going to be LOE. On this team, you run him alongside the new full power Frieza, who got an absolutely insane plat. So you run him, and you run him with the Revza that recently got a Zenkai that has the revival ability. So you have perfect color synergy between yellow, blue, and green. They also have very good synergy in their Dragon Ball Destruction and Dragon Ball Acquisition, as well as just overall defensive and offensive tech as well. But that's not what makes this team so insane. What makes this team so fucking incredibly annoying and insane is the bench that they have access to. You're going to be running them with a bench of Chilled, who is a purple EX, or not a purple EX, but he's a purple LOE Zenkai buffer, which the Zenkai buff does not matter, but he has the Z ability of Health and Health Restore, making it very easy for these guys to constantly stay healthy and keep healing up, especially because Revza also heals on switch out, full power Frieza heals on switch in, switch out, yellow, the new Frieza heals on switch in, switch out. Like, there's just so much healing going on, so that's one of the reasons. And the second reason is because these guys are also PO, you can run yellow Broly on the bench and give your full power Frieza, the yellow one, a double Zenkai buff, while giving everybody on your team a double HP bench. And you might be thinking that when you're giving your team a double HP bench, you're sacrificing a lot of stats. However, because of the double Zenkai buffs on full power Frieza, this is Final Form Frieza being a Zenkai buff on his own, all you have to do is run a Zenkai buffer for Final Form Frieza full power, the new Ultra, and you have all the stats in the world that you could ever need. And just conveniently enough, there is a green Golden Frieza who is a Zenkai buffer for this guy, and it absolutely blows my mind. The absolute synergy and absolute cinema that is this team, and I'm gonna hate it so much when I'm fighting it, but I'm gonna love it so much when I'm using it. It seems like an absolutely abysmally toxic team to play. They're going to be taking your Dragon Balls, they're going to be rushing you, they're going to nullify your endurance, they're not going to give a fucking damn about anything you have to do, because they're just going to heal through all of it, and probably have damn near over 5 million HP, especially if you're running the equips we talked about earlier. This team is going to be an absolute menace, man. So I really hope you guys pull Frieza and you guys are able to try this team out, and experience the true power of toxicity coming to life in Dragon Ball Legends. With that being said, the PO team is also very similar to that LOE team in that regard. However, the main thing that would change is that instead of running Revza, you're going to be running Perfect Cell. That's like the primary like red target that you are able to run. And you can still run like the double HP buff if you do want to run that, while also Zenkai buffing this Perfect Cell. Those are still options that you do have access to if you so choose. But I would run a much more offensive focused setup if you're running this rather than running a double Zenkai buff. But I would still recommend running Chilled on the HP rather than the yellow Broly in this case, but you could still do it. It's really up to you and your preference, whatever your bench is. That will allow you to run red, green, yellow with these three, and that'll be a very strong combo as well. Another option that you do have is to run green, green, red, or green, green, yellow with the full power Frieza alongside this Frieza and the Vegeta that recently released in part 2. That is another way that you can go ahead and make that guy relevant. And I mean, even that team seems absolutely insane, giving a revive to Frieza, who already has endurance, practicality. It's just a very strong combination, and this Vegeta is also very good in his own right as well. So making them work together is an absolute demon. And again, keep in mind, there is not very many, if any, purple units in the meta right now. So running these units, you don't even have to run like a counter like the yellow full power Frieza. These guys will just absolutely tear through everybody because there's no purples to tank them. They just tear through everyone. So that's something that you definitely want to keep in mind. That is a very strong combination that you could go ahead and run. But that is essentially all the options they really have on PO. You don't really want to be mixing their strike or blast attack too much. So that is something that you can go ahead and run. You can maybe even revisit the good old Kid Buu if you wanted to, but he's pretty much out of his date at this point. Now, the final team to go over for this Frieza is going to be the very similar team to the one we talked about for Super Saiyan Goku in his team build. And that is going to be Frieza, Goku, and Krillin, with you putting the Goku on leader, running Kaioken Goku on bench to Zenkai buff for Frieza and Krillin, and running either the EX13 that gives you 50% strike attack and strike defense, as well as the EX19, I believe, which gives you 50% blast attack and blast defense, to go ahead and just absolutely run a crazy mix and match of strike and blast offense, making it very hard for your enemies to be able to actually compete with your damage, whether you're doing strike or blast. And you're also going to be getting the insane support from Krillin and utility from him, and you're running the both top one best units on one team, both with very optimal Zenkai buffs and equipments that we talked about earlier. And it's just an absolute demonic of a team. I think this team is probably going to be the best team in the game, especially by the end of the celebration, depending on the Zenkais and all that stuff. So make sure you guys have this team built. Make sure you're ready for it, because this team might just take the game by storm. With that being said, That's everything you need to know about building the best teams for full power Frieza and which bench options you should use for him. And with that, this is your boy Aizen, wishing you luck on your summons.